I see it's a big day. It's a day that we're supposed to start Muksa. I'm a little bit nervous because I see that Nussi's not here. And how am I going to remember to start? I'm a little bit nervous. But Nussi's no longer the Rosh Kayla. I'm now the Rosh Kayla. I think, let's see what happens. It's a big day nonetheless. And hopefully, and I'm assuming by now the Olam has gotten well into the lachas of Muksa, and now Yabaki, and all there is for us to just talk together like we always do, and to try to clarify some of the things that maybe weren't so clear when you learned it yourself. But before we get there, so we have to talk about wind-up toys, and I thank those that brought in their toys, right? And I understand you didn't want to take from the deer, and we have a lot to talk about today. So let's try to get there. The shaila of wind-up toys and swings and kedoime. In order to understand the shaila of a wind-up toy and a swing, one must understand what's the halachas of a watch. What's the halachas about winding a watch on Shabbos? I started yesterday. Let's try to clarify this. The Shulchan Aruch, there's no Shulchan Aruch about watches. Actually, in Hilchos Muksa there are, but at least our watches. The Shulchan Aruch, the most we have in Shin Lamed Ches and Sif Gimel, is it talks about a zuga mekashkesh l'shoyes asir al yedei mishkoilas mutar l'archoy l'achinu b'beit yom k'dei sheyelech l'kashkesh kol haShabbos. Saying a very unrelated halacha seemingly. It says that you're allowed to set your grandfather's clock before Shabbos, and then it's going to go the whole Shabbos, even though it goes around and around and it makes noise and whatever. As long as you did it before Shabbos, so then that's going to be okay. All right, we're good. That's going to be okay. But that has not. We need to know you're allowed to set a wind the watch on Shabbos. Over there, it seems to be you could wind the watch before Shabbos. The obvious implication is to wind the watch on Shabbos. That would be a problem. Now, the Shulchan Aruch there is talking about a totally unrelated sugya. It's talking about grandfather clocks, and they make chimes and bells and all other types of noises, etc. And that's Lamaisa, what it says in Shulchan Aruch. Comes again the Rabbi, our Rabbi, the Mishnah Berurah, and he says that you should know about Shabbos itself, to go and monkey with the watch on Shabbos. If the watch stopped, then for sure you're not allowed to go and wind the watch or the clock or whatever. And that even by turning the, like the little knob over here, the little thing just going around and around. What are you doing, Sachakol? He says, das is yesh bezeh iser toira lekama poiskim. When one knows the style of the Mishnah Berurah, and he writes those words, Yesh Isser Torah Lekama Poiskim. So it sounds very aggressive and it's very scary. But if you listen good with a good ear, with the Mishnah Berurah saying, Yesh a lot of Poiskim that hold it's not an Isser Deraisa. That's if you really listen with a good ear, what's the Mishnah Berurah saying? Yesh Isser Torah Lekama Poiskim. Right? That's how the Mishnah Berurah tells you they should know. Many Poiskim, if not most Poiskim, hold it's not an Isser Torah. But the Mishnah Berurah wants you to know that I am Chayshid, I'm Chayshish, for those shitas that hold that it is an Issa D'Oraisa. So Mishnah Berurah says, you should know there's a lot of achrayim out there, not a lot. He says, there are many, some, thank you. There are some achrayim that hold this as an even Issa Torah. That's the obvious implication is that there are many that hold this not an Issa Torah, okay? But Al-Kabbalah, Mishnah Berurah's psak is clear that he's very chayshish for this, and he tells you, Havi b'chlal tikimana, ela filu, even if the clock is going, and your watch is going, so now you want to wind it in order that it shouldn't stop or that it should continue. He says, even that's aser, and even to be moishech the mishkalas in the toshin oyur, even that, says the Mishnah Berurah, is forbidden, unless it's a tzarech of a chayla. Unless it's a tzarech of a chayla, and then he says, then you do it like that guy, and that's the gatzim. Okay. Shabru again repeats the stuff, insemination and base. I think it was in Sivkat in Nun, but I didn't write it down. Insemination and base, Sivkat in Nun, he repeats it again. To wind the watch in Shabbos is also. Like I said yesterday, it's not negay really to know. Who cares that it's Aser? We know it's Aser because it's Varim Shenagu by Isser, Aser to Noyeg Heter in them. I once spoke to Rav Moshe Sternbach. I was talking about a Shaila with a watch and whatever, and he told me that it's Begeder, Dvarim Shenagu by Isser, and there's nothing to discuss. It's a Vada Isser Gomer. There's a certain Shuvah Sefer that came out in the last 50 years, and he writes with his Koyach Hakula, he says that he's arguing on the Mishnah Berurah, and he argues on the Chayadam, and he argues on this, and that's the Rabbi Moshe Sternbach told me is a Toyas Gemura, absolute Toyas, and because of that, he's mefakfik, how could he even write such a thing? He couldn't believe he would actually write it. I showed it to him in size, he was murdered and spoiled that he would write such a thing. It's not, there are some discussions that are over. This is one of them. There are some machlaikisim and some, there's a lot of machlaikisim in Kallus. This one's over. This one was already, and it's done. So the only thing is that we still do need to know why you can't wind the watch. Why is it negated to know why you can't? Well, you can't wind the watch. You can't wind it if it stopped. I'm talking about you can't wind it if it stopped. You can't wind it even if it's going. Even if it's going. I haven't talked about yet. What if you just want to change the time? Okay, but that's for sure. No one's winding the watch in Mishnah Berurah is our Rabbi Sagar Aleinu es Haderech, and it's over. What? Excuse me, what? We're getting. Schwalbe, you don't think you're getting to the fancy people watches? What's going on with you? We're getting there, but that's over. Oh, you guys are getting nervous that I just said you can't wear a regular watch on Shabbos. No, Maisa, it's not a gay wearing a watch on Shabbos anyways, because Chaim Kanievsky holds it's a little yilbash. So what's in the gay anyways? So you want to know, like let's say you have like a goyish neighbor or father, what? Or a lady. A lady. Okay, you have a lady. Right. Hey, marry one. Right, very good. So you have a lady, and she wears a watch or something like that. So then you want to know, okay, so to wind it in a way, to wind it even if it's already going and to continue the way. Now we're going to see about automatic watches and all these things and all these things. And Dovi sent me a whole different things about all different types of watches. And he sent me a watch which I asked him about a solar powered watch, and he showed me, and the watch costs 580,000 francs, I think it was, and over $1 million. So that's very negay over here. If it's negay over here, you should make the check out to Kallus. What? Sorry? I'm not sure if that's accurate. I'm not sure it's accurate. It's in style a little bit. It's a little bit in style. Does anybody here ever wind up watch or no? I think so. My son, and I'm a day older than you, and maybe that was what my shver got me, and no. So, but Maisa, it's important to know the timing for all the various things that we're going to talk about, swings and that dreadful noise again, right? And you get the point. So now, what's the reason why you can't wind the watch on Shabbos? And then it's negay also automatic watches, etc. What's the reason why you can't wind the watch on Shabbos? Comes again the Chayadam in Mem Dalid, Klal Mem Dalid, Oisid Tes. And the Chayadam says, he says, to wind the watch, that's a deraisa. That's a deraisa. Why is it deraisa? He said that's a Gemara at the end of Erevin. I mentioned yesterday. Gemara talks about where the snap, the cello or the violin snapped off the guitar, right? It snapped off the rope or whatever. And now you have to go and restring it. So how do you restring it? You have to wind, you have to, not wind, what's the word I'm looking at? Yeah, wind. You have to twist, you have to untwist, I think, really. But you have to, and allow for the rope to come down. So he says, look, over there, Rashi says, what's the problem if you do that? When you're bending something, winding something around or unwinding something, that could be a makabeh patish. So said Chayadim Huadin, when you take this knob and you're bending it around and around, and somehow it's causing the springs and the magnets and all the different things that are going on there, and it's causing it to, so that's a makabeh patish, and that's an issa deraisa. As I said, the Rebbe, the Chayadim, Maisa, the Kash is, it's mamish. It's such a tzarichi and gadol. If it's regular Tshuva Sefer would write it, we'd probably laugh. What does it have to do with the violin? What's it have to do? My Indian violin, the watches over there. The watch is not broken. The watch is not broken. Is anybody going to say that the watch is broken like we said yesterday? The violin is a snapped string and the cello had a snapped rope and it's broken. So when you're doing this, what are you doing? You're doing a makabeh patish, you're fixing it. What's the connection? Over here, this is the spring that was put into the system whereby you wind it and then it goes off, and it's meant to happen like that. It's a normal thing. It's not broken. Anything that's the normal way of its function, that's called broken. What makes that broken? It's like saying unfolding a table, the example we used yesterday, to say such a thing. It's almost it's asli lekach. How could you say it's made for this? How could you say such a thing is broken? The Chazanish in the 50th Zman in Ois Tes, he's not willing to be makabel this. He says this is not, and the Chazanish was from Vilna, wasn't a Hungarian trying to get out his anger against Litvish Paisich. I mean, he was the covet that he had for the Chayadam, and he writes, he doesn't understand it and he doesn't believe it. And then with that, he really, to a certain extent, and there were Talmidim that understood that perhaps he's saying Pshat in the Chayadam, but that's not Pshat in the Chayadam. He's arguing on the Chayadam. He says it can't be. Chayadam seems to say it's broken, and the Chazon Ish emphatically says a watch is not broken. Okay, so first, what's Pshat in the Chayadam? What's Pshat? You have to versteh the Chayadam. All the Achreinim spoke about this topic. The Panamiris I mentioned yesterday, I think I said where it was. Panamiris is in Beis Kuf Chav Gimel, Shalos Yavitz, Yaakov Emden in Beis Samach Gimel. They all discussed this Shaila. There's a Binyan Olam that's he has a Chuvas Binyan Olam. Yitzchak Isaac Charef, Geshmoi Keinu. He was a big guy. Tremendous guy, and he goes on. He got himself. He argues on the Chayadim. He says Pshat in the Chayadim. He goes on to argue, but he wants to say Pshat. He says, "What's the Pshat?" And that's what we're trying to figure out first. How to get it into the words of the Chayadim. We'll talk about it in a moment. But we're trying to figure out first what's the hezbeh b'chlal of looking at a watch and understanding that she's broken, that it could b'chlal be a makar patish. So he says, which I understand is really two potential malachim over here, maybe a third, but there's two potential malachim over here, which is that. When you look at I'll use always the mashal of a folding table because it'll be easier to hold on to something. But when you look at a folding table is the usage of the folding table is to be up and to put things on it. And there's a convenience factor of storage. That's a part of the table. And fakert, you dafka bought a folding table because you want to have that option of storage, etc. And to say it a little bit more, strong. I be'etzim, I don't want my folding table not to fold. What's a folding table that doesn't fold called? It's called a broken folding table. Right? And everybody here probably knows of one. You have that one folding table. If you fold it up, she's going to be nifter and whatever, so you never fold her and whatever. And then usually after sukkot, you throw it out. That's how it goes. But the Maisa, a folding table that doesn't fold, that's when she's broken. I want it to have the option of storage. I want this feature. I want it to not be constantly in its matziv of usage. That's why she's not called broken. If I had to explain why is a folding table not called broken, like a lamdan, imagine that guy would walk in here and we're trying to explain why a folding table is not broken. But they can't understand that because they each got to murder a massive. But a folding table is not broken because I don't want it to be in that matziv always. I want it to be able to be folded up. I don't want that matziv to continue keseder. That's the idea. The Maisa, when it comes to a watch, now again, I'm not getting involved if you decide to go out of your way and buy let's go back to Vilna, circa 1800, and let's go there for a moment. When a person bought a watch, he came home, he was so happy, it was like a Naya Zeger, he shows his wife, Naya Zeger, and he says, the one halavai, that this Zeger would just go and go and go, and I wouldn't have to wind it. I mean, the first day he wants to show everybody he could wind it, right? But then the second day afterward, and then he always has to wind it, and he looked at the time, and plenty of time, another, 4 hours, and then he realizes he forgot to wind it. And that's, the Maisa halavai tells his wife, halavai, his wife says, you're late. I'm not late, I'm actually early, I just stopped now, But Voltagevein that the watch would go keseder, I would be a happy Jew. I'd be a very happy Jew if the watch would continuously go. In other words, I don't want to have to rewind it, but what could you do? Manaseh. In other words, it's not the same as a folding table. A folding table is something that you want this feature. You want it to continuously, you don't want it to continuously go. Mashain came, you want it to be something that has the option of not being in its original. Mashain can a watch? I wish that the watch would continuously go. And therefore now I could start to understand that perhaps when it's taka stopped, so that's called broken. In other words, it's true, it's the feature of the watch and that's how the watch goes, but I wish the watch would go keseder. That's how the Binyan Olam explains, right? I'll say, halavai, there would be a spring that lasted forever. And the truth is, like we heard from Rabbi Spira, Maisa, today, fancy people, who needs this? Who needs this to have to go and wind? What are you talking about? People, if you have to press one extra button on the computer already, he's not willing to watch that share. Who needs this? Who needs this? So I have to actually wind something? That's for sure nished. So therefore, that's the biggest raya. The biggest raya is that people want watches that go keseder, and that never stop. So the biggest raya that a watch that stops is broken, is the mitzias that now that Baruch Hashem, we've managed to get out of the Stone Age and we're no longer in the site from Flintstones and Dechevra and those, right? So now, Gevaldik, now we can what? Now we don't have to wind our watch. And therefore a watch that you have to wind is considered broken. That's the Havana of the Binyan Oilam, how that connects itself to a violin, and it does. Okay, you have to know exactly what the Chayyadam wanted. I'll admit, the Chayyadam wanted just that, just a mere twisting something already could be a makat patish. Why is it broken? He wasn't bringing the raya from a violin. He was bringing the raya misvara. That's something that's batsim. Not going poil keseder is considered broken. If that's the lumdis, lafi this, so then a watch is very different than this dreadful sounding wind-up toy, right? Well, we'll get to we'll get to watches. The first I'm going in the year, I'm in Vilna or in Casablanca or Fez, whatever, circa 1800. Mez Hashem, we'll come back to Yerushalayim Yer Kodesh 2020 in a moment, right? Right? So this one over here. Now, this toy over here, right? Just listen to this noise and you'll know the answer to the question right away. Yeah? Is there anybody here that would want that noise to go keseder? Is there anybody here that wants it to always be going around and around and around? Avadana. We're dealing with difficult svaras, so all the jokes have to be held off for a minute, right? But is it clear that nobody wants that, let's say the wind-up swing, right? What do you want? You want it to be going back and forth every second of the day? No. You want to have the spring that has the ability, you wind up the swing, you wind the swing, it goes, you want it to stop. You don't want it shaking back and forth the whole time. I remember when we were first married, like about a year later, and the machine, it was on like a Shabbos clock or whatever. We had like a Shabbos clock, and it went on in the middle of the night. Like I guess it was still on the Shabbos clock. I remember that. I was trying to ask my wife today if she remembered the story. She remembered the story, but she was the only one I was married to, so I'm not sure exactly what happened there. But there was a like a Shabbos clock that was attached. So there we are, Moitei Shabbos, and all of a sudden you hear back forward. The vice versa went on. It was electric, that one, whatever, right? That was, so you know what happens in the middle of the night. You wake up, you hear that, right? That's what she says, man. No, I don't hear anything. No, there's something out there. I was like, okay, go. I'll stand behind you. So, Maisa, the Seifer was a miserable swing that was going back and forth and whatever, right? But, nobody wants that. Nobody wants it to be going the whole entire time. Right? The only thing that you want is you want it to go on, you want it to go off. So therefore, if I had to compare a wind-up toy, if I had to compare that's the same type of function. Dreadful. Right? The way it works is it has some type of a spring, and whatever it's going around, and there's magnets, and there's all other protons and croutons and whatever in there, and that's what's going on, right? So it's the same. So what would I compare her to? Would I compare her? You can see what we just spoke out. Would I compare her to a watch, or would I compare her to a folding table? So obviously, you'd compare it to a folding table. It's something that I don't want it keseder going. I want it to have the option of stopping. So therefore, she's not broken. So now we're back in business. Now that I know that the reason of why it's also to wind the watch is because Agufa, the reason it's considered broken is because when it stops, I wish it would continue. I want it to be Poil Keseder. That's why I consider it broken when it stops. So there are things like swings and wind-up toys that I really want them to have the option of stopping. And therefore, such a thing won't be considered broken. Such a thing, we would be able now to say that you'll be allowed to use the wind-up swing on Shabbat. You'll be allowed to go and use the springy toys on Shabbos, and thus it does. Is that crystal clear before I go weiter? That would be the first havana of why I haven't said a word yet. I mean, I said a little bit, but I haven't said a word yet in the halacha. I'm just telling you now a little story. Now, I got a saw. What? Wait, the Chazon Ish is not here yet. We didn't talk about the Chazon Ish yet. Chazon Ish argues on the whole Chayyadam. He argues on every word you heard just now. He holds a watch is a folding table and there's no chilek. And we're showing that there could be a chilek. But give me one moment because we are going to get to the Chazon Ish. Give me one moment. So comes again. So I had a svara. I found the svara in the Ber Moshe. It's a similar svara. The svara I just said, I found also the Shemir Shabbos brings down in Tez Zayin Mem Gimel. This is the one svara. It's the names and faces. I didn't do as much homework, but this is one svara that you can find in the city. I found another svara. That svara is in the Ber Moshe in Ve'av Lamed Beis. Again, I'm telling you that this is it's the way I'm saying this svara. Ayin Sham, I think he's saying the same idea. Ayin Sham. I saw one sefer, he says he's saying the first svara, but I think it's a mistake. I think he's saying the second svara. But what's the second svara? The second svara is a whole different svara. Why is it that a watch is different than a folding table? If you want it to be magdir like that. So the teretz is that when you have a watch, when it is not working is broken, because there's nothing you could do with a watch when a watch is not working. Now you can get involved in jewelry and this and that. I'm saying as far as the watch is concerned, the watch aspect, Shabbai, is broken. There's nothing you could do with watch. So maybe that's why we consider it broken. What is a watch when she is broken? What's a watch? Right now the watch is not, when she is stopped. What's a watch when she's stopped? She's broken because she doesn't do anything. There's nothing you could do with it. That's a little bit of that, but I guess I'll say it even stronger. It's like, it's worthless. You'll hear from the Mashenkin in a moment. A watch when it is worthless. A watch that doesn't work is worthless. I'll say it stronger. A watch like this, if it would remain like this, you'd throw it out. Again, I didn't mechalik. I shouldn't have said it in conjunction to a folding table. You'll appreciate in a moment. A wind-up toy. Let's say a swing. A wind-up swing, right? Is a wind-up swing, when the wind-up mechanism is broken, is it totally useless? Is it totally? Not totally useless. It's just you lost that extra feature. You lost a feature. Okay. A watch that is not telling the time now is not just, it has another feature. There's no other feature, right? A wind-up toy is still, I could still, now the winder is done, I can still play with it. It makes that dreadful noise, right? And a swing, I can still push. You can still push the child back and forth. Elamai, these are two svaras. We're trying to, right now, let's try to get Havana. I know all the possible dichuyim also, but let's first get the Havana. You have here a wind-up swing is something that's true. It doesn't have that benefit anymore. Okay, but therefore, it's, again, I'm not saying that if you would introduce that benefit into it, that wouldn't be a makiv patish. Let's say we had a swing and it didn't yet have the wind-up mechanism, and then you put the wind-up mechanism. Of course, that would be a makiv patish. You added a whole benefit to the kli over here. That's no shayla. I'm just trying to show you it's a problem. It's a siman to show you that this is not considered a broken item, and therefore I could view the winding as not something which is taking it out of the realm of broken. What's the raya? It's not broken, because haraya, when I have this item over here, I can still use it, and I could use it in its original function. I could use it in the same exact way that I used it. Elamai, it won't have that same exact benefit that I used to have, that extra feature. So then that feature doesn't say that when it's not happening now that it's broken. The item is here and the item is intact. I just have over here that the ability to go and be mafiled by itself, etc. But no one could say that the actual swing is broken. No one could say that the toy is broken, because it still functions as a swing and it still functions as a toy even when it's not wound. Those are the two potential svaras. Lefi that svara, again, you're hearing what'll be the din of a wind-up swing? I'll show you the nafkamina in a moment. But what'll be the nafkamina? What'll be the din by a wind-up swing? So the swing, could you say now the swing is broken? No, because it's a usable swing. When I do that, I give it, okay, so that's an extra feature in it, but it's not called that you're taking it from broken to fixing it. Who are then by the toy? And this is debatable. The toy part is a little bit debatable, because maybe someone will come along and say, come on, you have a swing. I could hear that when a swing stops, you won't throw it out because you'll still use it as a swing. Right? Anybody who has a swing knows that once it stops working, the swing, you're not going to throw it out. You'll still use it. You'll still use it, right? Maybe you'll buy a new one so that you can have the option of being able to just, wind up, etc. But what happens when a wind-up toy stops working? So now it's debatable. I could hear that kipshutai, it's still a toy, it's still a car. There's probably lots of them in people's houses and whatever, right? But they could hear somebody will come along and say, no, the whole entire vart of a wind-up toy is okay, whatever. But you get the point that it's not like a watch. It's not like a watch. A watch that stops, that you can't fix, is garbage. Right? That's the chiluk. That's the chiluk. What's the nafkamina to bring out the chiluk? What's the nafkamina? The game of perfection. I hope that you all went home and studied the game. No, Abi, you had the game over there, you said, right? But you know what it is, you said, right? Yeah. So the game of perfection is mamish the nafkamina. Because what's the game of perfection? The game of perfection is, like I explained yesterday, arichas be'ian, that you take the pieces, you put them down into the gevissa shapes and the sizes and whatever, right? Right, and all that pressure. And then if you get it, if you got it in time, so then it doesn't explode, and then you win. Okay, if you didn't, so then whatever, never break that. That's how it goes. Okay, so then these two svaras are nafka mina. Let's see. Is this game, do I want it to be Pile Keseder? Definitely not, right? Do I want that? Let's say the first svara that we said, right? Am I going to be allowed to wind up the perfection on Shabbos, right? So the first svara that we said is this called broken? And now you're fixing it. The answer is, Avada, it's not broken, because I definitely want that function of it stopping and going. Otherwise, I have a broken toy. If it would go the whole entire time, that's a broken toy. There's no shayla. So the first svara, it's not broken. The first svara, I'm going to be allowed to wind it on Shabbos. The second svara, is there any usage of the game of perfection without this spring? Let's say the spring works. So then it's a broken toy, right? Because that's it. The whole entire part of perfection is that it gives you that's the mitzvah of perfection, that it can explode on you. But a comment that doesn't work, so then of course you throw out the perfection because it's a broken game. So that shows you that there's a very, very big historistic chilik between these two svaras. Very big chilik. And Afkamina is the game of perfection. Okay? The Rebbeinu Shalom made the game of perfection for today. Where we Yud Beis, I don't know, Yud Beis Cheshvan, Tafshin. What are we up to? Yud. I'm trying to get some guys out of Bidud, so be quiet. Right? Yud Dalet Cheshvan, Yud Dal Cheshvan, Tafshin Pei Aleph. The Rebbeinu Shalom put the idea into this guy's head to make the game of perfection so that we can have shear. Understand? So now, the Maisa, who's right? I don't know. I mean, I don't know which star is right. I would have heard it's like a combination bets of both stars vising that a watch can be considered broken. Maybe both stars are true. A watch could be considered broken because she's right now doing nothing. A watch could be considered broken because Batsim, when she's not working, I wish it would be Poyel Keseder and whatever. And it doesn't make a difference because the watch is us. The only nafkamin is perfection. I would probably say not to play. That's right. But the Maisa, if you would ask us now, so what's the halacha? A swing? Lefi, what you heard today, no matter what, a swing is mutter. Right? Memana all the way, right? If you go with, it's only out to Shenagobia, so we don't understand why watches us there. So I'll tell you, okay, so they were no yigisser when it came to a watch. But who says they were no yigisser when it came to a swing? I don't think it's something that is a clear hachlata that people ask or whatever. So the Mela swing is going to be, that's one svara, swing. And the other svara, is it broken? It's not broken. I wanted to have this option of stopping and going. And the third svara that we said, is it worthless when it stopped? It's not worthless when it stops because it still works as a swing. So that shows that it's more daimah to a folding table. It's more daimah that this is a feature that the item has, but it's not considered broken, and therefore you're not considered making it go from broken to fixed. That's Adkan Shlav Aleph. Is everybody? Now I'll take some. So again, but the watch aspect, we're not dining on the jewelry. That's something else. Yeah, but that's not a job. That's a chef. That's the mitzvah of the chefza. Right? That's like saying that the wind-up toy I could put as the model. Okay, that's something else. It's not usable mitzvah its watch. It's not usable if I want to tell time. Right? There, it's usable in the exact same function. I could swing the child back and forth. Right? Here, I could still play with the car. Right? Now, I will tell you, Adkan, is that crystal clear? As far as that clear, I think. But klape. So again, but obviously, if he's winding it, he's just showing us that he's not. Yeah, but then obviously he shows us also the non-weirdness of the watch is that it works. It's like a little bit like I said, right? So and berega it doesn't work. Weird means broken. Weird is a fancy way of saying broken. Right? Weird guy. Right? It's a little bit broken. Right? That's sorry. The folding table, the second svara is really not coming to explain why, a folding table is the opposite. It's coming to explain why inherently a watch is broken. I don't have the comparison there because you don't need necessarily the comparison. In other words, a folding table might just be that there's no one who's going to look at it as a broken folding table because that option of folding it up is not considered broken. I don't throw it out. It's all right. Let me say it better. Let me say it better afterward. I don't want to lose the flow. Okay, that's part Aleph. Problem is, not problem. I looked today. There's an English book on Muksa. I got because we're starting Muksa. We're almost there. The 10 minutes is almost up. And I looked today in an English book on Muksa, Rabbi Badner's book, and over there he asked for Moshe, Zichron Lefracha, So sometimes I was just looking around for like that, and then I see he asked for Moshe about wind-up toys. He asked Moshe Mamish about this. He asked Moshe about the wind-up toys, and Moshe says on Shabbos you're not allowed to wind up toys. It wasn't mitzad muksa. Then he was donning. Is it muksa now? Whatever. If you can't wind it up, whatever. So that l'chayra is against what you heard today. And Ramosha is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, right? So Ramosha is everything. He's got it. But I got a heard once. I was once giving a shiur, and there was an einikol of Ramosha in the shiur, and so I was talking about the similar topic, and he said that he knows that in his house they use the baby swing with the with the wind up. That's what they use. By then they call it the Shabbos swing. They have one that's the Goyish one, and they have one that's the Shabbos one, right? So I told him, yeah, it's interesting. I didn't know this other Rav Moshe at the time, so I wanted to know which svara did Rav Moshe hold of. Which svara did Rav Moshe hold of? I had two svaras just now, and I wanted to know which one Rav Moshe hold of. So he called his, I don't know if it was his grandfather, his uncle, but he called Rav Reuven Feinstein, right? And he came back to us. Rav Reuven said that a swing is no shaykhs to a. No shaykhs. A swing is not shaykhs to a watch. No shaykhs. We asked him why not. No, that's shaykhs to a zega. It's not shaykhs. Right? So which svara is no shaykhs? Which svara is no shaykhs? In other words, the watch is maybe broken. Which one's no shaykhs? Right? Which one do you like? Which one do you think? So now maybe I can explain. If you go with the first one, with the first svara, so then the first svara, I could hear that the pshat is that there would be no difference, like we said, between a swing and a wind-up toy. Right? If all these conversations you believe in, and Ramosha, let's say, all these are all hearsay conversations, so it becomes difficult. But if we have to don on these conversations, right? So then we know that Ramosha seems to have mattered swings and answered the toys, right? So I could have heard that the pshat is a swing, that for sure is like a folding table. A swing is, I could say it even with strength. A swing, a swing is a folding table. It has the function of being able to stop and to go. It's not broken. It stops, it goes. That's how you use the swing. That's a usage. Balama. But a watch that stops is worthless. Maybe it's all the svaras. Maybe it's all the svaras. Maybe that's why Rav Moshe held. But when it comes to a toy, so now I could hear a toy. The pshat is if it doesn't have the wind-up ability, so then that's the whole toy. The chefs of this toy is that it goes on its own and that you don't have to play with it. That is what the toy is. So maybe it's like the second svar. Maybe Rav Moshe held of the second svar. The Hainu. Maybe Rav Moshe held that the second svar is, does it have a usage right now, even when it's broken? And therefore a swing does, and therefore we view the wind-up mechanism as an added feature, but not as fixing it. Mashenke, a toy is considered broken. And the nafkamina will be how you look at it. You say it's a broken swing. So you won't say the swing is broken. You'll say, the mechanism of the swing is broken. But the toy, I'm not saying these far as amuchach. I'm just saying, but if I had to say it, so I'd say this toy is only for one reason in the world. It's, Mashenke in the swing, at the end of the day, it's true. I bought that swing because I don't want to have to wind it up, but it's still a swing. It's a swing that the feature is broken. Okay. But Mashenke this, the toy, nobody buys this. Why would you buy it? The whole point of this is, okay, do I fully 100? So therefore, when I'm doing this, that's called that you're fixing the toy. Because the toy is broken now. It's okay. I don't know if on my own I would have said these words. If Rav Moshe said it, I'll never know. We know that in the Muksa book. I don't know. We never asked Rav Reuven the Shaila about, maybe we'll find out, he'll tell us that, no, wind-up toys are also mutter. And then that there was a misunderstanding here. I don't know. But one thing I do know is the swing for sure is mutter. The manashach, the swing is mutter, right? No matter how you cut it, the swing is zichur mutter. All the svars that we said today, the swing is mutter. Okay, Maisa. So it's interesting. It's like this. So I gave a shiur about this by the shul. So there was actually that's when it was. There was a bacher that was there, was eating by him. He was in a nikol for Moshe, and I was giving it by the Israelis in the shul. Right, and they so there was a person there. He's a nephew of the Chazaynish, right? And I gave the shiur and I said to him, you're allowed to wind up the swing. And he said to me, and what about the Chazaynish? What about the Chazaynish? He was the nephew of the Chazaynish. And what about the Chazaynish? You can't have the matzav over here. Nephews of the Chazaynish. It was like a nightmare. And what about what's with the Chazaynish? So I told him, look, what should I tell you? The Chazaynish is a das yachid. What's the Chazaynish? The Chazanish comes along. The Chazanish was a great koyach. The Chazanish, but the Chazanish in Siman Nun in Ois Tes, he says this Chayei Adam is not to be believed. It's not to be believed. What is he talking about that it's broken? It's not broken. And he emphatically says that that's not true. A watch is not broken. When a watch stops, when you have to wind the watch isn't broken. Okay, so the Chazon Ish says, so what's the pshat in the Welt that they don't wind the watch? Because now he has to answer, because in Maisa we don't wind watches, right? So what's the pshat in the Welt? It's not like the Chai Adam. I'm being emphatic for a reason, you'll see. It's not like the Chai Adam. He says, you know why? So he writes all different lashonos there, the Chazon Ish, with his Merdika Sprach. He writes, he says, you're yoitzer a koyach chadash. You're making a new koyach. It's a naya koyach. Or he says, you're taking something dead and making tchias amesim geveinlach. Guf meis techai. You're taking something that's lebedik. You're giving it life. He says, that's what is the problem with winding the watch. When you wind the watch, right now the watch has stopped, and you created a koyach, and that koyach does something and works on its own. You created a koyach. You took this watch, which right now is dead, and you made it alive. What is that? What's that isser? What's the isser on Shabbos? We know the isser to kill something on Shabbos is an isser, right? What's the opposite of chayvul? To take something and make it alive. What's the isser? So the Chazon Ish says, that's makeh b'patish. That's makeh b'patish. Why? So he says, what do you mean? And that's what the Rebbeinu Shalom did also. What do you want from me? The Rebbeinu Shalom was made from yesh me'ayin and dust. So you take something that doesn't exist and you create it. That's the greatest makeh b'patish in the world. You know, this is a v'tavada mit Hashem. We'll learn Bainam. And you'll see, this is where, the Chazon Ish came from, das electricity. Come to the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish looked at electricity. Chazon Ish didn't know, what is electricity? Right now, the wire is dead. You're taking it, you're giving it life, and you're making it alive. What's that? That's makeh b'patish. Sorry? Come again? Oh, that we'll see in a second. That could be. Okay, that could be, but that's a big fight. But that could be. But he said, do you want to know why you're not allowed to wind the watch on Shabbos? Because right now the watch is tight, dead. What are you doing by winding it? You're yoitzer a koyach, making a spring is being yoitzer a koyach, and creating this mitzias, this reality that didn't exist. Sorry? Could be. You're saying also, and I'll put the two of your stars together in a moment. That could be, but let's down on this case. So he said, therefore it's also. So this Jew asked me in the shir. He says to me, and du and was is mit der Fette der Chazon Ish. So I told him, what do you want from me? You know the Chaver in the shul, right? What do you want from me? Right? And you actually know what I'm talking about. And what do you want from me? I told him the Chazon Ish is arguing on all of the Achrayim that ever lived until Vilna, circa 1915, 20, I don't know, whenever he wrote this. I said, what do you mean? How could you say that? I told him, look, all the Achrayim, I don't mean the Achrayim, the Panamiris, and the Yaivitz that are matter a watch. Right? I mean all the Achrayim that dan on the Chayodam, to Aser watch, the Binyan Oilam, Vayzel Charif, and dust, they're all danning one Shaila. They're all danning, what's the Chayodam talking about, Shalomation? They all want to know, what's the need of a watch? A watch is not broken. And they all come to show you that a watch is broken, which is what we did today. I showed you a watch is called broken because if it's not doing anything now, that's broken. The other svara, that's called broken because you wish it would always work. They're all trying to figure out svaras to say she's broken. And that when you're winding it, you're fixing it. The Chazon Ish is coming along and saying she's not broken. He's arguing on the Chayadam, and he's saying a whole new reason why it's asur. It's asur because you gave it a koyach, you inserted a koyach that it did not have. You made it alive. That means no one in the world was ever nachas to this havamina. Because everybody was saying a watch is either fixed, like the Panamiris, it's either not broken, legamre, or they were saying it's broken, and they were explaining to the Chayadam why you're fixing it by doing it. But nobody dreamed of saying that the watch is taka fixed, it's not broken, v'afal pikin it's asur. Until the Chazon Ish. If you ask the Chazon Ish, when you're winding a watch, what are you doing? Are you fixing a watch? Or look at you like you're not a normal person. Because you're not fixing the watch. The watch isn't broken. And you know what? The Panamiris will agree. They'll also look at you like you're not a normal person. The watch isn't broken. But the Panamiris will say, and therefore it's mutter. And the Chazon Ish will say, and therefore it's asur. Because the Maisa, you created a new kayach. So therefore, what do you want from me? So now, it's true. If you go with the svar of the Chazon Ish, so then Sitonish v'Saretin b'chlal. There's really nothing begins. If you go with the svar of the Chazon Ish, so I could tell you 1,000 million svaras of why a swing and why this wind-up toy is not broken. I tell you 1,000 svaras it's not broken. It's not broken. There's no question it's not broken, right? But who cares? You're Yoitzer a new koyach, and even when things aren't broken, you could be over a makiv and patish. So according to the Chazon Ish, to wind up a swing on Shabbos, you chayiv misa. According to the Chazon Ish, to wind up this toy on Shabbos is chayiv misa, because you're creating a new koyach, right? The first thought I told you, according to all the Achrayim that lived until Vilna 1920, mutter gomer, no shayla. It's not even the Ram Shenagah by Yisr, right? So this is. So what do you want? So he comes to me after the shir and he says to me, "What am I? It's up to the Chazon Ish, right? Stomach, you have to be machmir. Stomach, you have to be machmir, right? Because what do you want? He's the nephew of the Chazon Ish. Chazon Ish could come back in a dream and kill him. What are you talking about? So the Chazon Ish wouldn't be the first person the Chazon Ish killed. I mean, there was, Chazon Ish was very scary. I'm not, And then me myself, I got a little liba noikvai. Chazon Ish. I mean, Chazon Ish was big. He was mamish big. He wants to start with Chazon Ish. And then you think you're so big, you can start with the Chazon Ish. All these other Achrayim, they're saying it's mutter or whatever. Chazon Ish. I say, liba noikva. Every time you're going to wind the swing on Shabbos. No, when it comes to the wind-up toys, it's the kids doing it, so they could be saimich on the mirrors. They could be saimich on the way we're learning or whatever. But the punktach, okay, but Chazon Ish, you're the one who's going to be winding up the swing, So that's a little scary. Imagine, you're going like this, right? And right there on the shelf, there's a whole set of Chazon Ish, right? And also in my house, I have a picture of the Chazon Ish there. And it's like a scary looking picture also. You know the picture over there, right? And he's looking at you and you're winding it. So what am I going to do? Every time I come to wind I'm going to take the picture off the wall. I'm going to turn it around, right? So then the Chazon Ish holds, you're not allowed to do that. Chazon Ish Ramosha holds, you're allowed to take the picture off the wall. Chazon Ish holds, you're not allowed to take the picture off the wall. So what am I going to do? I'm going to cover it. But it's like conservative people, so I couldn't live with myself. So I had to come up with some type of eitzah. So now, Rabbi Chamshi, and I guess I'll go with Rabbi Chamshi. So how am I going to say it? Chaim Shmuel. I'll just say it like that. No, Rabbi, what? Rabbi Chashmi. That's better, right? Rabbi Chashmi. And Rabbi Moyel, they have two svaras here that we could put together, and maybe we could play with them a little bit. First of all, number one is, what would happen if I theoretically would create this koyach before Shabbos and I hold it in place? I harness that koyach. I created the koyach before Shabbos, like in our case. I wind up the swing before Shabbos. I wind her up, legamre, okay? And now you put something there so that it doesn't move. The koyach is there. All you're doing by lifting up the stick or whatever and allowing it to go back and forth is you're just unleashing that koyach. Is the Chazon Ish going to answer that too? Yeah? What? Chazon Ish going to answer that too? Yeah? What? Who's of the opinion that the Chazon Ish will answer that? You're unleashing the koyach. Who's of the opinion that the Chazon Ish will matter that? Right? Who doesn't have an arm? Okay, good. I also didn't know. I also don't know. I wasn't sure. So this nephew of the Chazon Ish, he asked the Shaila to his uncle. Who's his uncle? His uncle? What? Reb Nissen Karelitz. Zecher Tzadik Levracha. Reb Nissen Karelitz said, mutter. Chazon Ish would not have held that. Maisa, he has another uncle. What's the other uncle's name? Chaim Kanievsky. He asked the Shaila to his other uncle, Chaim Kanievsky. Chaim Kanievsky said, Safek. He asked the question to his father. His father's not an uncle, but he's also, right, Rabbi Greneman, right? And if he held his pashit that it's not a problem according to Chazon Ish. So it's like it's ein safek might see me the vadayim of these two nephews. I don't know. Chaim's very big. It's like hard. You're dealing with like big Italia Gumba here and like Mel Chabashin, like who's bigger? I don't know that, but it's 2 against 1. And what's as far as to matter? I find it very easy. No, it's not dead. The pshat is that it's asleep. It's not dead. What? You're not yaitzer kayach. You didn't yaitzer kayach. The kayach is there. Rabbi Lieberman, I don't even understand. I don't understand any other side. There's water pressing against a dam, and you take out the what's it called, the ditch. What's it called, the dike or something, right? You take out that thing, and the water comes shooting through, right? So what? You're yoitzer the kayak, right? What? That's something else. No, the swing is already there. It's just being blocked. It's there, waiting to move. Okay, Akapanim, you can definitely hear that. No, Rabbi said, we're dealing with a svara that nobody said until the Chazon Ish either. So, I'll be willing to accept coolers. Fine. So here you go. The swing was unleashed. The swing was now unleashed. And that wouldn't bother me. So I could, set up the swing before Shabbos. But that doesn't help me too much, right? Because how much time do you get with the swing when you do it before Shabbos? Like 20 minutes on those swing. That's mine. Mine went for 20 minutes. So what are you going to do? It's going to be like a special Friday night treat for the baby to put it in for 20 minutes. Rabbi said, the 10 minutes is almost over. What are you going to do? Rabbi said, what are you going to do? You're going to do it for 20 minutes. He gets to go on the swing. It's not so. So what do you do? Fine. Wait a minute. So now every time you get to like 18 minutes, chai. So now you put something there. You have to block it for a minute, and then you go and do it again. Wow, what are you doing? Now that's the next shaila. Would the Chazon Ish hold that that's a yitzira of a koyach also? Chazon Ish does not talk about this in Sefer Chazon Ish. In all the volumes, he does not discuss this. What would be if you're not yotzer koyach here? You're just making it that the koyach is not going to stop. You're making her not die. Mashal madavar daim. It's like you take, like we said yesterday, you take planks and you block the building from coming down. What's the Chazon Ish going to hold? So do you look at it as some futuristic koyach that you're creating over here? Do you say no? The pshat is the koyach is here and I'm making it not stop. I could have heard both ways. This I didn't send this shadow that I don't know the answer to. Rabbi Moyle wants to say that the Chazon Ish would be mekel. I saw in print others that say b'shem the Chazon Ish it would be aser. L'daiti, don't know, but if I say the shaila is getting lesser and lesser. The shaila is getting less. So now, at every 18-minute interval, what do? You go and you rewind it, make sure she doesn't die, okay? And then you put the stick there, you take out Angel or Sprinty or whatever, you take out, and then, you put it back, and then every 18 minutes, you keep on going like that. And then you don't have to cover the picture of the Chazon Ish, and then you can sleep at night, and, it's a whole different experience. That's Atkan, the wind-up toys and the springs. What? No. Mamsh not. No. I'll answer your question after the share in a more intelligent way, but no. But that's l'char. Now, the only thing that we have to deal with now, but there's no time because we have to start Moksa, is there's one last thing here, is these automatic watches. These automatic Zegerlach and things like that. Based on what you heard today, so then let's see. I mean, Lamaisa, how do they work? So the $1 million ones, I don't think there's a gay here, so I'm not going to go into that. Then maybe, okay, we'll go into those two. Fine, no problem. How did the automatic watches, my understanding is that I got automatic watches, people think like, they were made in the 20th century. In the 21st century, the Hart Tzvi already discusses them. Hart Tzvi was Hirsch Pesach Frank. He lived over came to Shalayim over 100 years ago. He gave smicha to Rav Yashiv. We're not talking about he remembers the Abaye and Rava. It's a very long time ago that he was. And he already talks about these automatic watches. It's already an Altamaisa. Okay, so what's the story with these automatic watches? So the way it works is that something happens from the movement of your hand. You're just walking. If you're going like this, that's a whole different story. That's a Maisa maybe, right? That's called maybe winding. If you're going like this, we could talk, right? But if you're just going like this, so then it goes, and there's a magnet, and there's all these things that there's always a geek that knows these things, but he's not going to want to reveal himself right now. Who wants? We have a geek on the thing. Yeah, but they can't hear him. You can't hear him. But the way it works is basically it's your hand, they moving. It chaps the movement. It gets that magnet to go to that magnet, and then she goes to there, and there's like a super magnet in London somewhere, and whatever. And the kids are somehow it's winding your watch. The Maisa, once you hear that the whole shaila is just winding watches, we know in the first place we're not convinced. Again, we're not dealing with taking a watch and winding it from scratch, right? The truth is, I should make one comment over here. Sometimes when you, okay, let me make one comment. Let's finish automatic watches. Okay, these 10 minutes are coming to an end. Let's talk tachas a second. When we're dealing with winding in the watch, which in the first place is not so simple that it's usher, Okay, we are machmir. And we consider it to be dead, and we consider it to be broken, and we consider it this. Okay, but that's all when it's totally stopped, right? To wind it when it's already wound, it's already, the Mishabur himself says that it's usher, and we don't do that either. We don't wind it, right? But if I say vait, when we're dealing with something that nobody even sees what he's doing as a pa'ula b'chlal. There's no mice over here that he's doing. So now you can start getting involved in all types of svaras. Like, some achrayim want to say it's a kal achar yadik way of winding a watch. Again, that's hard to understand because that's the system that they made. Some want to say it's a psikresha delay nichale because he doesn't care. Why doesn't he care? Because it's already, no matter what, if he's wearing it for the last week and 2 weeks, it's definitely going to go for the next 24 hours. It's not? But there's going to be a moment. Let's say it'll work for 24 hours. Let's say that case, which is most of the watches. Most of the watches, they're going to go no matter what for the whole Shabbos. So Brenzach, he's so nervous that it won't work on there, and then therefore he wants to make sure. It's not something you think about. Okay, I grata these svaras themselves, I'm not so into. I'm not so into those svaras because I don't know, it's nichale, you're happy about it. That's the system they created. It's kalachar yad. No, it's not. I saw one sefer, he writes mamish, nichale, kalachar yad, migu, naparnat, whatever you can throw in there. I'm not impressed. However, there is another svara over here, which is a svara that gets thrown around in Hilchos Shabbos a lot, which is that in Hilchos Shabbos is dav zayin a maisa. There has to be some kind of a maisa. If there's something that a person just puts on his watch, he doesn't even think about it. Maybe the first time ever he puts on the watch, he thinks about it. So then that is not so simple that in Hilchos Shabbos, that's called the Melechas Machshavos. It's not so simple. In Melechas Machshavos, this has to do a lot with the sense or shailas, walking down the street and you don't know that there's a light there and it just happens and you're going to walk and there are going to be lights and whatever. Again, these svaras, if they would be by themselves, I don't think I'd be makel on the shaila. But when you put it together with the shaila that we're talking about a watch which is already wound anyways, and it's happening on its own, I don't know if you have to be marish to oilam, and therefore anybody who has a watch which is going to last from Shabbos, the whole Shabbos, so then he could continue wearing his watch. Obviously, I'm talking about a woman because the yilbash and obviously all other averas I'm not talking about right now. Okay, now Rabbi Meir is saying that his watch, it doesn't go like that. How does your watch go, son? Yeah. 12 hours of not spinning. What do you mean not spinning? You have to wind it. So what do you talk about? You have to make him feel bad for? Well, okay. Yeah. So, I think I'm right. They're like in style, like a little bit. It's like that. You can go back to the olden days also. Right? That's why I have a tape recorder. That's how it goes. Right? But so you have to wind your watch, and what? And it also winds automatically, or no? Okay, so your watch, it could be shtickle anti-Semite. I'm saying your watch might be in Bayam. What? Who's going to wear it on Shabbos? You're a Jew. What's the shayla? Okay. So Maisa, I ever told you a story with Dad? Dad went to Chaim Kanievsky. Told him, don't go, Dad. He's going to make you grow the beard. He's going to make you take off the watch. Don't go. No, don't worry. I have it all planned out. So goes to Chaim Kanievsky. Takes the watch. He puts it up all the way like this. All the way high up like that, you can't tell about the boss, take off his watch. So you have to put it up like this, put it up like that. Comes into Reb Chaim. Chaim says to him, "Do, Ayid, Kinder, was that's learn stuff up on a board. He needs a beard, straight for the beard. Straight for the beard. So it was Cholamayid. So my father had already, from Cholamayid. So he said, no, Chabshay Nepis. And he goes like this. When he did that, the watch fell out. So Chaim on the spot goes, the Zager. The board with the Zager. So this is what he claims. They made a heskim. He was masking that so my father won't wear the watch on Shabbos. And somehow he forgot about the beard. I thought, no, it doesn't sound right. He doesn't forget that, man. But that was the heskim that they made. But Akopanim, so I don't know, they with their ways. But Rabbi Yashiv got a war watch. Shver wore a watch, got it. Interesting, right? And I think this type of watch also. I don't know. Sorry, but a beard they both had. Okay. But so your watch, now, so more like a 3-day yontif, I think, is where the problem starts. I think the 3-day yontif is really where they say the problem is. And so I guess you have to just move to Eretz Yisrael and keep one day. That's Rosh Hashanah, we could only 2 days. They say it's not an issue. They say it lasts for. So they say they're always going to last no matter what for 48 hours. That's what they say. I don't take responsibility for this. But the mice again, you see, I'm not impressed in the whole Isser in the first place. I'm not convinced about the Ganze Isser in the first place. So now the Maisa, I want you to know one last shayla. What about if you want to change the time? Let's say the time is wrong. Right now, as everybody knows. Does everybody know what my watch is? What time is it, Rabbi Sharon? What time is it? How many minutes? 5 minutes. What time does it say on the watch? Well, no, it says, no, 5. What time? 5. No, it doesn't. It says 4:50. Right? When I see this, I see 4:50. It started out, this is an illness, Rabbi. It started out 5 minutes, then it went to 10, then it went to 15. I stopped at 20 because my wife threatened divorce. But the mice, it was, no, it's either that or not coming on time. That's how it is, right? I once gave a ride to Tzika Shalevsky, he's great. I once gave a judge drove him someplace, right? And he was speaking somewhere. So he takes my arm and he says, "What time is it?" "We're late." I don't, no, we have another 20 minutes. Not for another, it's 20 minutes. Did you what? No, I said, no, that's couldn't masik. Why would you do that? Couldn't masik. There's no way you can explain this to an Eloi. No way. No, but he keeps the whole drive over. The whole drive. So how's it? But it didn't work. Anyways, why am I telling you about my life stories? Anyways, so the watch. So let's say you want to change the watch. And you want to change it to, let's say the watch is at 4:45. Let's say that you guys didn't realize, and it's Shabbos, and they changed the clock on Thursday night. So now you change the clock. Are you allowed to change the time on Shabbos? You allowed to change the time on Shabbos. Is the time, the time or the day? I don't see why it's a difference. I don't see why it's
changing the time might be considered broken because if the watch that's not telling you
so is a watch that's not telling time, is she broken or not? Is she broken? So the problem is that a lot of the Svarim, everybody said the problem is like this. A lot of the Svarim, they talk about the Shaila, and they all say that they bring up this like a Tiferes Yisrael over there in the Kakel Shabbos Talmud Ches. He says a watch, the famous words from Reb Chaim. We'll never know if he said it or not. But he said, what's worse, a watch that is stopped? A watch that stopped, or a watch, this is like one of those, your 4th grade Rabbi or 6th grade Rabbi told you, right? You're getting nostalgic almost, right? What's worse, a watch, which is, and the point is 30 kids in the class trying to figure out what the Rabbi wants from our lives, right? What's worse, a watch that stops? What's more broken, a watch that totally stopped, or a watch which doesn't stop, but it's the wrong time, right? So the Rabbi, emphatically said that Reb Chaim, everybody knows that Rabbi, that Reb Chaim said it's the watch which is off, the time is off, because that watch will never be right. But at least the watch which is stopped, it'll be right twice a day. That was, and then all the kids came, Rabbi, I don't understand what you're saying. Right? So it's probably not true. It's probably true. Reb Chaim probably never said it. Right? The pshat is that my watch, I know exactly what time it is, see what the time is. So the fact that it's off, it doesn't matter. When I see 5:10, I know it's 4:50. It's actually 4:53 already. It's I know the time. So now, is that called a broken watch? The Maisa, just a moment, you'll ask me after, it's Wednesdays I stick around. The Maisa, Kipshutai, I don't see any tzad in the world that it's broken. As you know, tzad in the world that it's broken. And therefore, theoretically, I didn't say aloch l'maisa, but theoretically, you're going to be allowed to change the time. Right? You'll be allowed to change the time because you're not fixing anything over here. All as far as we spoke about today, you didn't yoitzer or koyach, you didn't fix anything, it didn't go from broken, fix. The problem is that all the kids farm write this, and factually, it's a big michshol. It's a big michshol. Because when you pull out the piece to change the time, it stops the watch. So then about it, we're back to the whole story again. So now you're starting everything up again. So now, that's already not bullshit to me. So now, let's see. Dafka lefi the chazanish, you could clear. Lefi the chazanish, what? The big clock, it'll be allowed to. Yeah, the big clocks you want. The Fidel Chazanish we can clear because you didn't create a koyach. Because the koyach is there. Dafka the Chazanish we can clear. Dafka, here it'll come out ironically, maybe a chumrah like the other direction, right? Sorry? You mean if you have a battery watch? If you have a battery watch, yeah, that for sure it's a problem, yeah. If a battery watch, then for sure it's a problem. Huh? Yeah, but you have other issues with that watch. But yeah, he's right. If the battery watch and it stops, your mom is starting up an electric, force over there against. I don't know. That's a very big problem. So halacha l'maisa, the automatic watches, I'm okay with them as long as they were going for 24 hours. I'm okay. To change the time of the watch is not going to be negaya because you're going to wind up having to, clock, it'll be negaya. To use a wind-up swing, so Medina, it's mutter. And you could let the children play with the wind-up toys. Medina. If you want to know, am I going to do it? I'm scared. The Chav Meir of the Chazaynish, the Chav Meir, and the Chilchus Shabbos. I'm scared. So I'm going to do the eitzah that I said. No, and the Maisa. So now, Baruch Hashem, we can start Muksa. As Hashem. Right? What should we do? We should start Muksa? What should we do? What? A broken watch. A real emistic a broken watch is taka muksa, and it's a big shaila. Exactly how do you do it? It's on your hand now. You're being metaltal. Emis a broken watch. What? Sorry? Let's say it's a really dreadfully ugly looking one. It's not a tachshit. And he's not going for the ugly look. So now, but then we have to say, and what about a stopped watch? Not a stopwatch, a stopped watch. Is that considered broken? Is it considered broken after everything here today? And therefore maybe it's muksa because now it has no usage on Shabbos. Right? So Baruch Hashem, we started muksa. Right? And then Mitzvah Shem. So tomorrow, from the first second, there's no games, Rabbi say. First second, no games. Right?
I was just going to say that for you, it's not.
Let me say goodbye to these guys 1 minute. Rabbi say, I stick around today. I'm coming upstairs. I'm coming up.